proud to report that the New Jersey comeback has begun. In these last 2 years, New Jersey has set the standard for governance in America. Be honest. Don't mince words. Do the big and difficult things, not only because it's right, but because it lays the foundation for future greatness. Now, it's our job to finish the task.
That was the Republican governor of New Jersey delivering his State of the State address in Trenton, New Jersey, and he joins us now in studio. Governor Christie, of course, has been out campaigning for Mitt Romney in Iowa and New Hampshire, and we'll move on to South Carolina. Governor, it's good to see you.
Good to be here. Well, is this like Home Alone? Did Mika and Joe forget you?
Macaulay Culkin sitting here.
Where's the luggage? Oh, goodness, where's Willie?
Sometimes, Governor, I come into work and nobody's here, and I just go about my business.
I'm telling you, but you're doing well so far. Listen, you and I, let's just hijack the darn thing. Forget the feed to Washington. Yeah. Cut it off, fellas.
Yeah, cut off
we
the
got
mics.
It handled here.
Cut off the mics. Let me ask you, I want to talk about Romney in a second. I want to ask you about the speech, the State of the State. Yeah. The 10% across the board income tax cut. You got a lot of heat from that. Democrats, even who praised other parts of your speech, said it's a bad idea, said it drains the government coffers of $1 billion at a time when we need it for schools and transportation. Newark Star-Ledger called it a breathtakingly bad idea.
Well, I take a deep bow for that, because anything the Newark Star-Ledger editorial board doesn't like has got to be good policy.
All right, well, take your colleagues. Take the Star-Ledger out of it. Take your colleagues in the Senate.
Well, first of all, it gets phased in over 3 years, right, Willie? Okay, so we're not taking a $1 billion hit to revenue in the first year. We're phasing it in over 3 years because we're doing it in a responsible way. But what we are is the most overtaxed state in America, and we need to start bringing those rates down so we can be competitive with our neighbors. We have an opportunity with New York now raising its rates, Connecticut raising its rates. We have a chance in New Jersey to become competitive again, to fix the ills of the last 10 years. 115 tax and fee increases in the 10 years before I became governor. It's time to start lowering those taxes. And you know, Democrats only complain about worrying about how you pay for something if I'm giving you your money back in Ridgewood, right? Then they're worried about it. But if they want to increase spending, they don't worry about how they pay for that. And that's how we got into the debt and deficit we've been in New Jersey.
But aren't they right that it's a tax break for guys in Saddle River and not guys in Newark?
It's a tax break for everybody.
But a small one, if you're paying a small tax to begin with.
Well, it's 10% for everybody, Willie. And if you're paying in, you get 10% back. But we're also increasing the earned income tax credit, which means for the working poor in New Jersey, if you pay no taxes, you're going to get more of an income tax credit, a refund from the government. Everybody wins in this tax cut. Everybody who made the sacrifice is now getting benefit as well. And the problem with the Democrats is all they want to do is make government bigger and spend more money. Remember what we've done. There are less people on the state payroll today than there was when Christie left office in January of 2001. We're making government smaller and smarter, and now we're going to make it less expensive for people because we're going to cut their income taxes 10% over the next 3 years. Let the Democrats try to stand in the way of giving their people their money back.
We're going to go to Mika in just a second, but do you expect those Democrats to somehow work with you to get that 10% through?
Listen, I hope so. We have shown over the last 2 years a real ability to act in a bipartisan way. I've tried through the proposal I made to not only deal with cutting income taxes for everybody who pays taxes, but even for the people who don't pay taxes, to try to give them more money back, to try to help them through this difficult time. And I hope that the Democrats would see that for the compromise that it is, so that everybody benefits. And I think when they have time to let the political heat cool down, they're not going to look at their constituents and say, no, we're going to keep your money. We're not going to give it back to you so you can spend it to support your family.
All right, Mika wants in. We're going to turn on the microphones in D.C.
All right,
Mika,
well, I just want to say, now, I want to jump in first, Mika, because I'm listening to this, and I'm thinking, you know, as a conservative,
yes.
And I'm looking at the film, I'm like, there's no real conservative. I'm like, why couldn't we have a guy like this on the national ticket, being a champion of less taxes, being a champion of smaller government? I mean, it's a shame, isn't it, Mika?
Well, you still could.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, isn't he sounding kind of vice presidential?
Well, yes, he is, in fact.
Oh, my goodness.
He would be a great offset.
I think it would.
Oh, wait a second. Am I sounding like I should go to a funeral? Hey, what are you talking about? How do you sound vice presidential? That's what vice presidents do, Mika, right? They go to funerals, basically.
Oh, come on now.
I'd like to be governor of New Jersey.
They also proposed 10% tax cuts in the middle of a presidential campaign. Now, Governor, Mika has a new poll out, a Quinnipiac poll.
Quinnipiac University poll showing 55% of New Jersey voters say it's very likely or somewhat likely that Governor Chris Christie will be selected by the Republican presidential nominee to be his running mate.
Yeah.
Those are your people.
Now, see, I'm not really good in math, but I don't know that
68%
likely.
how does that work?
That up.
Is that
make
like,
sense at all.
That sounds like Democratic math. I mean,
that's Jersey math?
55 plus 68?
What you talking about?
I mean, that's like 100 and...
Something like that.
I can't count that high. It's over 100, though. I know that much.
Would you be interested in being a vice presidential candidate?
Joe, you know the answer to this. There's only one person who makes a decision about who the vice presidential candidate is going to be, and that's the presidential nominee. I don't expect to be asked. I've said over and over again, I don't think I'm the type of personality who is going to be asked to be vice president by anybody. I mean, they'd have to hire a food taster, Joe. I mean, you know, they wouldn't want that. So what I think is I'm going to be able to help Governor Romney by being the governor of New Jersey, doing the best I can to try to help him get elected president of the United States and support whoever it is he puts on the ticket. But I'm an ass.
You've been graded also by the people of your great state, the Garden State, as Willie and I like to call it. This is grading your performance halfway through your term. Look at these grades. If only I had these type of grades, this breakdown of my grades in high school. 20% say you got an A. 31% say you have a B. Man, that's over 50% say you got an A or a B. 23% with a C. Now, there's a territory Mika and I are more comfortable with.
23%.
D's and F's. C's,
we
D's,
relate
and F's.
with the
14% D, 12% F. We were just talking to Bob Woodward about leadership, and it is amazing how your numbers went up when you sat down with Democrats and both sides made some really tough choices to pass New Jersey's budget.
Now listen, the budget, pension and benefit reform, where we saved over $120 billion, two budgets that we've balanced now without raising taxes on the people in New Jersey. Fact is that Democrats and Republicans can work together, but it takes executive leadership. The person in charge, whether you're the governor or the president, has to drag these people into a room and say, listen, we're not leaving until we settle this, and everyone has to make some compromises. And that's what I've done, but I've never compromised my principles. And that's the difference. You don't compromise your principles, but there's usually a boulevard, sometimes wide, sometimes more narrow, between getting everything you want and compromising your principles. That's what we're trying to do.
Governor, this is Bob Woodward. Sir, what is the art of making a deal? In other words, if you were to sit down and have dinner with President Obama and say, this is how you cut deals with the political opposition, which is quite mobilized and passionate, what would you say?
First is you have to develop relationships with Bob, and unfortunately that ship has sailed for the president now because he paid no attention to that over the first few years. I mean, you know, the Republicans were in the minority. He paid no attention to them. And now you need them because they run one of the houses of the Congress, and you don't have a relationship. I had an old boss, Jim Comey, who used to be the Deputy Attorney General when I was in the Justice Department, and he told me he was going to the New York Times editorial board, and I said, Jim, you're John Ashcroft's deputy, you're going to the New York Times editorial board? And he said, Chris, it's a lot harder to hate up close. I have lived by those words since he told them to me. You need to get in the room, and not just when you need something, but over the course of time, develop relationships with people so they feel like they can trust you and you can trust them. And so when they give you their word, you can count on it, and vice versa. So it takes time, Bob, to do this. I mean, when I first got into office, they were not clamoring to cooperate with me. But over time, I think they realized I had the best interest of the state at heart, and I would keep my word. When I gave them my word on something, I would keep it.
If I can ask one quick question, what is your reaction to Governor Romney saying that he paid only 15% effective tax rate?
As an advisor, how do you handle that?
Well, listen, first of all, the way I've conducted myself in my public life all along is I've released all of my tax returns. And I did it during the campaign, went back a number of years and released my tax returns. And I released them every year after I filed them, right after I filed them to the public in New Jersey so they can see everything. And I think that's the right way to go, and that's what I would tell Governor Romney to do. Now, he says he's going to release them in April. I hope he does. The fact of the matter is that's what I would advise him to do. And in terms of the 15% effective rate, for people who know this, I don't think it comes as any great shock because the guy hasn't been having a job where he's been getting income over the last number of years. And so he's been getting money from investment income, which is taxed at a different rate. But the fact is, let's get all the facts out there, see what the tax returns say, and then I think everybody will know that this story is really probably much ado about nothing. But that I've conducted myself in public life over time, and if I were asked by Governor Romney, that's what I would urge him to do as well.
Sam Stein, that's the point you made earlier, is that anybody that has followed Mitt Romney's professional career and political career is not going to be surprised by this 15%. What we're talking about around the table is he's done nothing illegal, he's done nothing wrong. It's just politically awkward for him right now.
Yeah, and part of it has to do with the way he handled the debate, where he was asked about releasing his tax returns, and even preceding that when he said he was going to do it but didn't really want to do it, and you just never got a sense that there's something. You got a sense that there was something to hide, and you know, I guess the governor's probably right that the best thing to do now is to just let it all out. And the surprise is because he's been running for 5 years, why this stuff hasn't come. Yeah, and also of course the stuff with his father, which creates a bizarre contrast.
So on a final note, Chris, it is good to have you on the show. We hope we
wait. Could I ask you to call him governor? I mean, let's be respectful of the position. Look at him. I mean, when he's vice president, are you going to call him Chris?
I call Joe.
You do call Joe, but maybe he's going to want to be called Mr. Vice President.
I don't think he's needy that. Yeah.
I'm not all hung up on that stuff.
Okay.
So, Chris, I watched you on the OWN network, the interview with Oprah about your weight, and I have to tell you, on a very serious level, I don't agree with you at all, pretty much ideologically and in terms of politics, but I really appreciate you're speaking out about this, and you will identify with so many Americans who are dealing with this crisis firsthand, like you are, and I know that must have been difficult, and for your family as well, to go all out like that and talk to someone like Oprah Winfrey, who has had her own struggles but also has a huge platform for this issue. I really appreciate it, and that's all I wanted to say.
Well, listen, thank you. Listen, it wasn't hard for me, Mika. I mean, you know, the fact is, she asked me questions, I answered them, and I told the truth, and I told people how I feel. It is a struggle. It's been a struggle for me for a lot of years, and so I hope that other people in the country understand, and I appreciate what you all have been doing when ignoramuses like Eugene Robinson get on your show and start saying the stuff that they say about weight, and someone should have a salad and take a walk. I mean, you know, as far as I'm concerned, guys like that shouldn't have a platform to speak because they're so ignorant. This is a struggle that people have, like a lot of other struggles that people have in life, and so I'm going to be honest about the things that that are, you know, a challenge to me, and if in any way that helps other people, I'm thrilled by it. But all I was trying to do was honestly answer questions about my life that Oprah asked, because I think if you go on one of those shows, you have an obligation to honestly answer the questions.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, hey, speaking of struggles, Willie, you and I have our own struggles. That have nothing to do with eating.
I thought you were going to say, speaking of ignoramuses. By the way, we love Gene Robinson. That may not have been his finest moment, but we love Gene. Same Oprah interview. You say, in 2016, I will be, quote, much more ready to run for president. What does it say about the field that we're still today, 2 days away from the South Carolina primary, reading op-eds that say Chris Christie should get in the race, Jeb Bush should get in the race? What does that tell you about the state of the party?
I don't think it says anything about the state of the party. Hopefully what it does is say that there are a lot of people out there who like the policies and the approach that I'm taking, that Governor Bush took during his 8 years as governor. And I think that's what it's really about. And so I don't think it diminishes the other people to say that we have other really good folks who at this time in their careers decided they just didn't want to run for president of the United States. That's what I hope it really says. I like to take it as something good about me, not something bad about the field.
It doesn't say that the party's dissatisfied with Mitt Romney, that they're still begging you to get in the race, even though he's won 2 states and on to a third, perhaps, on Saturday?
I really don't think so. I think there's always a searching and a longing until somebody wraps the thing up. And then when they do, the party unites around them and gets excited about their candidacy. That's what's going to happen with Governor Romney when he gets this nomination wrapped up, which I hope he will do in the next couple of months.
All right, your next press is turn around the New York Mets. Good luck with that. Your squad.
Come on.
I had to say
Forget about it. That's, you know, I'm in pain. Pitchers and catchers report, I'm in physical pain over that.
Even
physical pain.
Even you couldn't turn around the Mets at this point.
Well, don't say that now, Willie. Mr. Wilpon, my number, you've got it. Give me a call. General Manager Christie.
You give up your job in a second.
Let me tell you something. People of New Jersey, I got to go. I've been offered the general managership of the Mets. It's time for me to move on.
He won't run for president, but he will run for GM of the New York Mets.
Governor
Chris Christie, thanks so much. We'll be right back.
Thank you.